Spine-chilling awakening. Discover 5 sinister tales of haunted autopsies revealed by legal medics. Sarah had always brushed off the whispers around Maplewood as exaggerated gossip, the kind of chatter that swirled like autumn leaves among the neighborhood's stay-at-home parents and curious children. But after a long night shift at the coroner's office, her disbelief began to crack like the fragile branches outside her window. She straightened the stark office, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, when she stumbled onto a classified report. The words raced off the page, each line imbued with dread. Unnatural deaths. Shadows behind the cemetery. Children who went missing, only to return changed, lost in a darkness deeper than oblivion. Her heart pounded. Wasn't that just a story? But still, a chill crept down her spine. Later that day, as she prepared dinner for her 2 children, whispers seeped through the walls of her home. She glanced over her shoulder, anxiety prickling her skin. Shadows flitted past the hallway, a mere trick of the light or something darker. She shook her head, trying to shake off the dread. Surely, these were remnants of her exhaustion, her mind reeling from the morbid tales she had uncovered. But could it be more? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day faded into evening, and fear settled over her like a thick fog. Laughter from the neighbors outside sounded hollow, too perfect. And were those whispers she heard? Closer, nearer? A shiver raced down her spine. Each time she entered a room, she felt a presence lurking, a breath on her neck as chilly as the autumn wind. The rumors of spirits seeking vengeance whispered through her mind. This was no longer a cozy suburb. It felt like a trap. But there was no room for panic. Her children needed her. Just as dusk encased the neighborhood, she was jolted by a raucous laugh from next door. The neighbor, Mrs. Wells, was handing out warm pies, casual and cheery, but something in her smile felt wrong. As Sarah smiled back, gratitude warred with instinct. What did she know? Why did the chill in her gut insist something sinister lay beneath the surface? As shadows thickened around her home, Sarah uncovered perplexing ties within the histories of her neighbors, each thread knitting a tapestry of horror. A dark curse, passed like an heirloom through generations, cloaked the neighborhood. Images of the deceased bobbed in her mind, their pale eyes accusing. Then, a scream sliced through the silence, a sound she couldn't place. Was it her children's laughter or something vile? Racing towards their rooms, heart hammering in her chest, Sarah skidded into the hallway. The shadows danced, mocking, slamming doors open and closed as chaos swirled around her. She grasped for the last piece. Would it deliver solace, or plunge her into horror beyond comprehension? She stood, teetering on the edge of fear and discovery, wondering anxiously if she was truly prepared to confront whatever that scream heralded, and if her ordinary life in Maplewood could ever return. The scream echoed like a bell tolling in the night, rattling Sarah to her core. She shot towards her children's room, each footfall heavy with dread. The door stood slightly ajar, shadows swirling inside like a living entity. She hesitated, heart racing, the air thick with uncertainty. "Mommy?" It was a small voice, weak and trembling. Relief surged momentarily, but the playfulness in her children's usual voices was curdled with fear. "Hold on. I'm coming," she shouted, trying to sound steady even as her insides churned. She pushed the door open fully, breath hitching in her throat. The room was dim, lit only by the flickering light of a lamp. Her son, Ben, sat wide-eyed on the edge of his bed, clutching a stuffed bear, its fur matted and stained. The shadows clung to him like a shroud. Her daughter, Lily, cowered in the corner, her face pale and streaked with tears. It felt wrong. The air crackled with something sinister, something not entirely of this world. What happened? Sarah dropped to her knees, reaching for her children as panic clawed at her throat. "What scared you?" Lily pointed at the closet, her fingers shaking. The man, he was in there. A cold weight settled over Sarah. She could feel it, the quickening pulse of something dark, lurking, waiting just beyond the wood. "There's no one there, sweetie. It's okay." But her own heartbeat betrayed her, quickening as she turned to face the closet. "Go away," Ben yelled suddenly, thrusting his stuffed bear into the air as if it could fend off whatever hungered in the shadows. The air chilled, silence descending heavily as the moment stretched thin. Sarah approached the closet, the wooden door looming like a gateway to the unknown. A faint whisper rustled from within. It felt as if the shadows were calling her name. With trembling hands, she gripped the handle, barely feeling the pain of her nails digging into her palms. Taking a breath to quell the fear and drop into fierce determination, she yanked the door open. Darkness poured out like smoke, engulfing her in an icy grip. She squinted into the void, eyes straining to catch a glimpse of the unseen. There was nothing, only a pile of discarded clothes, heavy coats draped over hangers, and a darkness that seemed to shimmer unnaturally. And then, the whisper escalated into a growl that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. Sarah, her name echoed, low and ragged, sending shivers coursing through her body. She recoiled but was held in place by an invisible force. She could feel it, an ancient presence, filled with rage and despair. It wasn't just her mind playing tricks. It was alive, and it knew her. In a sudden rush, memories flooded back, old stories, half-forgotten conversations of the neighbor's son who had gone missing, the whisper of the darkness behind the cemetery. "Mommy!" Lily's voice broke through the haze, pulling Sarah back to her children. With a burst of strength, she slammed the closet door shut, chest heaving, feeling a wash of relief bathe her. But the faint scratching at the other side made her blood run cold. "Lily, Ben, we need to go. Now." She ushered them toward the door, keeping a steady pace, the weight of dread pressing down with each passing second. Outside the room, the house felt alive, creaking and snapping as if it were protesting their departure. They fled down the hallway, shadows curling around them. But as they reached the stairs, a heavy thud echoed from above. Someone or something was moving through the attic. The realization hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. What if it's not just the other neighbors? She thought, a sinking feeling taking root inside her. Then came the howl, piercing the night, a sound that promised terror. Her heart raced as she grabbed her kids. "We have to get out. We can't stay." Just as they turned back towards the door, a shadow flickered down the stairs. And when it hit her, the realization that maybe, just maybe, the true horror of Maplewood was only just beginning to reveal itself. What loomed above might be the last nightmare that could consume them all. The howl echoed in Sarah's ears, twisting her stomach into knots. Panic surged through her veins as she clutched her children tighter. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely. They moved cautiously toward the staircase, the air thick with tension. Every step felt like a leap into a chasm of dread. Each creak of the wooden stairs beneath them resonated like a drum roll, building an anxiety so thick it nearly suffocated her. What was up there? What had invaded their home? Suddenly, a door slammed somewhere in the house, a violent crash that sent all three of them jumping. "Mommy!" Lily whimpered, burying her face against Sarah's side. "Keep going," Sarah urged, her voice trembling as if it could shatter at any moment. Her thoughts spiraled as she imagined all the places they could hide. The basement? They would be trapped. The front door? Felt like a million miles away. Just ahead lay the darkened hallway, where shadows breathed. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Sarah stopped, heart pounding as she squinted into the darkness. "Did you see that?" she whispered, already knowing the answer. Ben nodded, eyes wide, confusion and fear swirling in their depths. "What if it's him?" he asked, breathless. The words sent an icy chill down Sarah's spine. The man in the closet was not just a figment of their imagination. "We'll get out of here," she hissed, forcing a brave front. "Stay with me." They shuffled down the hallway, Sarah leading, adrenaline surging within her. The thumping from above intensified, the relentless rhythm urging them to flee faster as they reached the end of the hall. Sarah breathed in sharply. The front door stood just ahead, its frame glowing with a potentially welcoming light. "Hold on, just a bit further," she urged. But before they could reach it, the howling from the attic warped into something grotesque, a low, spiraling laughter that slinked down the stairs like a serpent. It twisted around them, wrapping them in its sinister embrace. "What is that?" Ben squeaked, gripping his mother's hand tighter, his knuckles white. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice shaking as the shadows contorted, seemingly alive. She felt like they were being watched, scrutinized by unseen eyes. A sudden crash above them rattled the walls, followed by ominous, shuffling sounds. They were not alone. Face pale, she looked at her kids. "We're gonna push through this, okay?" In that instant, the room flashed with a blinding light. A flicker, like lightning, illuminated the hallway, revealing a figure briefly in the glow before plunging them back into darkness. "No," Sarah gasped, her heart pounding wildly. "We have to move." She shoved the door with all her strength, a desperate explosion of energy. It swung open but stopped abruptly, locked by something outside. "No, no, no," she panicked, yanking at the handle. "Let us out." But the door wouldn't budge, as if it had a will of its own. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her small hands pulling at her shorts. "Please, just please," Sarah cried, scrambling backward as the scratching grew louder, more insistent, the laughter reverberating around them like a twisted lullaby. "Mommy, what did you do?" Ben yelled. The grasp of the panic was suffocating, reality crumbling as something terrible loomed closer. "Mommy, it's coming!" Lily screamed, eyes darting toward the foyer, where the shadows began to pool like thick liquid. In the next breath, something unnatural burst from the darkness, a hand, skeletal and grotesque, reaching for them. "Run!" Sarah shrieked, turning to grab her children. But the figure lunged forward, its cold breath swirling around them like mist. What happened next was a blur. The world erupted into chaos. Sarah felt a tearing sensation as darkness clutched at her throat. And then everything faded. What came next would change everything. Only then would Sarah comprehensively grasp the horror hidden within the shadows of Maplewood. Sarah jolted awake, gasping, the chilling grip of the darkness still tightening around her. Heart pounding, she pushed herself up from the cold floor, blinking away the remnants of unconsciousness. The heavy shadows danced before her, taunting her, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Mommy?" A small voice broke through the gloom. "Lily?" She turned, desperately searching for her children. Relief surged through her when she spotted them huddled together, wide-eyed. They were alive. Thank God they were okay. But the terror didn't dissipate. Their faces mirrored her own fear, the horror that swallowed them at every corner, promising something unspeakable in return. We have to go," she stammered, voice threadbare. But where? The house was a maze of dread. The walls themselves felt complicit, enshrined in silence that was both comforting and threatening. "Where are we?" Ben's trembling voice quaked. She glanced around, straining her ears for any sound beyond the children's whimpers. The howling, the laughter, they felt like shadows, rippling just beneath her skin. "I don't know. But we can't stay here. We need to find a way out." As they huddled together, a low, throaty whisper seeped from the corners. Sarah's body froze, instincts screaming for her to cover their ears. But it was too late. The voice morphed into chilling words, an echo of their worst nightmares. "You're not alone. Run," she commanded, springing to her feet, her heart racing as a cold breeze swept through the corridor. Her instincts kicked in. She had to protect them. They shot down the hallway, fear propelling them beyond the limits of rational thought. But the house was alive. Doors slammed shut on their own. Windows rattled as if something sinister clawed from the outside. With every step, the dread spiraled deeper, the air thickening as if they were moving through mud. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her little hand slipping from Sarah's grasp. "No, Lily!" Sarah turned, and everything seemed to confine around them as terror wrapped around her throat. Time blinded as she grabbed for her daughter, the darkness attempting to pull them apart. "I'm here. I've got you." Just then, from behind, the thick shadows recoiled, revealing the outline of a face, an eye glowing amber with malevolence, fixed solely on them. A grin curled on its lips, the kind you'd see on a child playing with its food. "Not so fast," it crooned, its voice dripping like honey, thick and sticky with malice. Screams erupted from her throat. The laughter swelled, twisting into a cacophony of madness. The shadows swirled, their form shifting like smoke. "Mommy!" Ben's cry cut through the hysteria, snapping her back enough to pull both children close. "What do we do?" No, we keep going." She lunged forward, adrenaline surging through her as footsteps thundered behind them, chasing them, urging them to the brink. The front door, her salvation, was just ahead. They barreled toward it, but the sinister figure blocked their path, standing between them and their escape. Mutilated hands gripped the doorframe, contorting grotesquely, shattering any hopes of lingering safety. Then the door shattered with bone-rattling force. "Run now!" Sarah screamed, shoving them aside as she launched at the figure. But it vaporized, vanishing in a swirl of darkness, leaving her flailing, enraged. "Mommy, please!" Lily quaked, pulling at Sarah's skirt as the walls leaned in, their presence clinging to her like unseen weights. "What do you want?" Sarah screamed into the void, defiance sparking through her body. A whisper, a promise floated back, to play then silence. The house held its breath. Heart pounding, she gazed at her children. "We can't stay here." But now, something lurked deep within the depths of those shadows, something that had been waiting. What did it mean to play? That thought skittered across Sarah's mind as she rushed her kids toward the shuddering front door, the air pregnant with something darker, something waiting for them beyond the threshold. What would it take to escape this nightmarish game? The door shuddered in its frame, splintered with still vibrating from the recent impact. Sarah's breath came in short, ragged gasps. The world felt warped, and panic climbed higher in her throat, threatening to choke her. "Mommy, we can't go back," Ben pleaded, his small face pale with fear, his eyes darting toward the wall of darkness spilling into the hallway. "We want tea." Her voice was firm, but even she didn't believe it. The universe outside no longer felt like safety. It was a vast unknown filled with the known horrors of their home. "Where do we go?" Lily whimpered, clutching her brother's arm. As time warped and warped again, she glanced back at the corridor, where faint glimmers of light danced just out of reach. What she saw froze her blood. Figures emerged from the shadows, moving fluidly, their bodies mere silhouettes that twisted and turned, shrinking or expanding, as if they were less than human. "No, stay close," she barked, grabbing Ben's and Lily's hands with a desperate grip. They fled down the hall, her senses screaming at her to turn and see what awaited them. The laughter grew louder, an ominous echo, curling around her brain, wrapping tighter like a noose. It wasn't random giggles. It was a cruel game, a taunting invitation. Shadows chased them, darting from corner to corner, like demon foxes playing in the night. They stumbled into the living room, where long-forgotten memories hung like cobwebs. Dust motes glimmered in the little light that managed to filter in. Sarah gasped as she realized the furniture was strangely rearranged, creating a labyrinth of shapes that loomed like monsters. A voice, familiar yet distorted, crept from the shadows, obscured by something dark and suffocating. She spun around, terror gripping her heart. Who's there?" she whispered, panic sweeping through her like ice water. "Mommy," the voice echoed again, more insistent, echoing in her mind. A pit opened in her stomach. It wasn't from a corner of the room. It was deep inside her, where the shadows whispered to her spirit. "Ben," she cried, suddenly realizing the sick game. This voice was not disembodied. It wrapped around her children too. "Hold on to me." Lily and Ben clung to her tighter, but she felt their bodies grow cold. They were slipping, fading. The suffocating darkness seemed to reach out, tendrils stretching toward them. "What do you want? Come out!" Sarah screamed, anger flaring, pushing her fear aside. And then she saw it. A silhouette flickered in the corner, and suddenly it was a figure, a girl, small and ragged. Her face warped as if stretched too thin. "You'll never find the way out," she rasped with a smile that tore at Sarah's heart, eyes shimmering with malevolent delight. "But I can help you, if you want to play." The air grew colder. "Mommy!" Lily shivered, backing away, her little face filling with dread. "I don't want to play." "Where are we?" "What do you mean, play?" Sarah bellowed, her courage chipping away beneath the girl's chilling gaze. In reply, the shadows thickened, swallowing the light. Whispers turned into shouts, a chorus of laughter growing louder, more chaotic, circling them like a rushed storm. Faced with the dim path behind her, the specter loomed, an impossible choice hanging in the air. What kind of game had they been swept into? "Mommy, we can't stay here," Ben cried, pulling her toward the darkened entryway as chaos erupted around them. She felt the weight of their fragile hope shatter as the spectral girl danced toward them, freedom entangled in her malevolent delight. "Will you play?" And with that, the shadows surged, grasping for the children, and Sarah knew the truth in her every bone. There was no escape. The laughter spiraled, twisting into a dreadful anthem. "What do I have to sacrifice to save them?" she thought furiously. But that question hung in silence, the shadows laughing louder, and somewhere deep down, she felt the answer pulse with dread. What horrors would she have to face to break this cycle? The shadowy girl took a step closer, her grin wide and feral, teeth glistening in the dim light. "Playing is so much fun," she said with a voice slick as oil that oozed into Sarah's ears. The laughter swelled behind her, a cacophony of mocking jeers that pierced her resolve. "Let us go," Sarah shouted, but the words felt thin, frail against the rising tide of darkness. "Don't you want to find out how deep this game goes?" The girl tilting her head in a mock curiosity, her form rippling under shadows that seemed to breathe. The very air felt thick, as if reality itself were suffocating under dread. "Run!" Sarah yelled, yanking her children with her. They dashed back into the hallway, where the lights flickered ominously, casting long, grasping shadows. But each step echoed against a wall of terror that felt all too tangible. "We have to find a way out," Ben whimpered. Sarah's heart sank. "But where?" came Lily's frightened voice as they sprinted. She felt the shadows close in, pulling at her clothes, like hands made of night trying to drag her into their depths. A sudden screech echoed above, a high-pitched wail that made her freeze. "Sarah!" Ben cried, eyes wide, terror unmasked. "Don't look back," she shouted. The corridor twisted ahead like a monstrous serpent, bending its path into a dark maw. They pressed forward, desperate and frantic. But then the laughter intensified again, swirling around them, until it became a storm above their heads. "Mommy!" Lily called, her voice rising in panic. "What do we do?" "Keep running," she urged, racing down the spiraling hall. But with each step, the walls seemed to curve inward, as if the home were tightening its grip around them. Just ahead, a door loomed, both inviting and ominous, glowing faintly. A flicker of hope surged through Sarah. "There, we can get through." As they reached the door, a wall of shadows exploded from it, reshaping into dark specters with twisted faces and hollow eyes. They surged forward, hostility etched onto every ghastly feature. Too late for escape, the girl called out, her laughter piercing. "You're already part of the game. Turn back." Sarah screamed, fear clutching at her throat. But it was too late. The shadows closed in. "Mommy!" Ben's voice broke, and Sarah turned, her heart pounding like a war drum. She felt their hands slip. The specter's whispers danced in her ear, pulling memories from the depths, twisting them into grotesque shapes. Laughter echoed, cruel and taunting, as they reached for the children. "No!" The desperation ripped through her. She lunged forward, pushing against the black tide, pulling her children closer, more tightly with every ounce of her being. "Fight!" she screamed, dodging specters, grasping at the silver memories of her children's laughter, trying to anchor them against the chaos. We can't let them win. Everything blurred into shadow and sound. At that moment, she remembered their laughter in the kitchen, the warmth of family. That light could pierce through. We have to believe. Suddenly, a surge of energy flared within her, bright and fierce. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from her resolve. It pulled at the children as if they were strings tied to her heart. But the malevolent girl only smiled wider. Your hope is futile, she hissed. In my world, darkness consumes all. Yet, even as the shadows clawed at her, Sarah fought back with everything she had. We will not surrender. The flicker of light surged brighter, but a bone-chilling laughter echoed back. Straining against the creeping darkness, they might just have a chance if she could find the strength within herself. What would be required to break free from the clutches of this twisted darkness? In the storm of panic, an unexpected thought struck her. What if the girl had something she craved? A game piece she desired more than anything? With wild determination, she faced the shadows. Knowing she had to make an impossible decision, what could she sacrifice to save her children? Time was running out. The shadows surged closer, swirling around them like a living nightmare. Sarah could feel the icy breath of the dark specters grazing her skin, their nails scraping against her resolve. Panic rose like bile in her throat, choking her. "Mommy, I can't see." Ben's voice was barely a whisper, muffled by the chaos. "Focus, Ben. Just hold on to me," she screamed, adrenaline flooding her veins as urgency propelled her body forward. She could hear Lily sobbing, the sound piercing through the cacophony like a siren-esque wail. "Mommy!" Lily cried again, and Sarah felt something inside her rip. She had to stay strong for them. The girl's laughter echoed in her ears, festering like a wound that refused to heal. "You'll never escape." "Shut up," Sarah shouted, grasping at the pulsing memories of better times. Anything to hold on to. A picnic under a sunny sky, the warmth of their laughter wrapping around her like a blanket. But those images were losing their glow, overshadowed by the oppressive darkness closing in on all sides. Suddenly, a shimmering glint pulled her attention. From the swirling shadows emerged an object, a puzzle piece, glistening like it was borrowed from another world. It pulsed with light, as if it was calling to her. "Look," Sarah pointed, desperate for the children to see it. "Mommy, no, it's a trap," Ben wailed. "Trust me, we can't give in." She shook the fear from her voice as she lunged forward, drawing the kids behind her. With every step, the laughter escalated, swirling in a storm of mockery, drowning out her resolve as she reached for the glimmering piece. The shadows writhed beneath her hand, vibrating with rage. "That belongs to me," the girl cried, her voice now a piercing shriek that sent jolts of ice down Sarah's spine. It was not just a game piece. It was the embodiment of darkness itself, hunger lurking within its depths. What if? A terrifying thought struck Sarah. What if I traded something for it? "Mommy, don't." Ben's voice broke once more, gripped by fear. But it was too late. "Take it. I'll give you my fear," she shouted into the void, her words flinging themselves into the unknowable. "I'll give you all my fear. Just release my children." The shadows hesitated, a ripple of surprise coursing through the encroaching darkness. It was enough. Just enough. The specters paused, whispering to each other, the grin on the girl's twisted face faltering. "Your fear is a poor bargain," she sneered, but as she spoke, the glimmering piece began to grow dim in her grasp. "I will take much more than that." "What else?" Sarah gasped, feeling her heart race. "I'll sacrifice anything." "Anything?" The girl's laughter curled like smoke around them, intoxicating and sinister. "Then you will lose your own light forever." Time hung heavily in the air, the darkness holding its breath. Sarah's heart thundered, the clock ticking in the back of her mind. Could she dare to take such a risk? With the specters watching, she plunged into the depths of her memories, seeking the one thing, that one flicker of strength she held dear. Could she sever it from herself? The warmth of motherhood and love do it, She screamed, voices colliding in a swirl of desperation. Do it for my children. Just as she reached for the last remnants of her spirit, the shadows lunged forward, grasping at every inch of her. The door to despair gaped wide behind them. Sarah felt light leave her body. It slipped like sand through fingers, the laughter deafening. Yet, as the shadows tightened their grip, she saw a flicker in Ben's eyes, a glimmer of determination. Hold hands. Hold tight, she ordered, her voice rising above the storm. But the question remained, what price would she ultimately pay? Would they find salvation, or was the darkness finally claiming them? In that terrifying moment, a new voice called out from the shadows, a whisper that seemed all too familiar. Mommy, why did you let go? It echoed forlornly, reverberating with the specters, trapping them in uncertainty. Time was slipping away. What was hidden behind that question? Sarah felt a shiver as she turned, searching for a way back, but a new face emerged from the shadows. Are you ready to play? Chuckled, the game now taking on a sinister twist. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the new figure emerged from the shadows, its face twisted with malicious glee. The specters around her seemed to dance, their forms flickering in and out of view like candle flames caught in a gust. The voice echoed, playful and taunting, filling her with dread. Play? She whispered, the word tasting bitter on her tongue. Of course. SNT, that what you want? The figure leaned closer, revealing its features, a grotesque caricature of childhood innocence twisted by darkness, eyes wide with an unnatural hunger. You're already losing, but the fun has only just begun. Get away from us, Sarah screamed, pulling her children tighter against her. Yet the shadows seemed to feed off her fear, swirling around them like a living tide, and she felt them draining her strength. A heavy silence settled, thick like fog, punctuated only by the unsettling giggles of the apparitions. They moved closer, their fingers elongated, reaching for her, for Lily and Ben. Each spectral reach felt like ice against her skin. Mommy, I'm scared, Lily cried, her small voice breaking through the noise, reminding Sarah that there was still a reason to fight. Stay close, Sarah cried back, determination igniting within her. Though she felt the light seeping from her soul, she drew her children in tighter, shielding them as best she could. We can't let them win. The girl in the shadows frowned for a moment, the fleeting impression of frustration flickering on her face. But they're already winning, she hissed. Look at you. You're losing hope. Hope? Sarah felt a stirring within her, an ember in the suffocating darkness. I won't let you take that from us. Before Sarah could grasp the weight of her own words, the shadows shifted violently, and a rush of screams erupted, as if angered by her defiance. You think you know hope? The girl's laughter twisted, becoming a symphony of despair, drowning out Sarah's thoughts. I'll show you real despair. In a blur, the shadows surged forward, a mass of darkness that threatened to engulf them. Sarah felt something sharp pierce through her heart, an echo of the girl's words resonating deep within her. Mommy, look, Ben shouted, pointing past the swirling nightmare. Through the storm of shadows, a faint light shimmered, flickering like a distant star. It pulsed in rhythm with Sarah's heart, beckoning her. Don't listen to it. It's a trap, the girl shrieked, fury twisting her features. With every ounce of strength left, Sarah pushed her fear aside and moved toward the light, gathering her children as if their unity could shield them from the grasp of despair. We need to reach that, she urged, her voice steady despite the terror that clawed at her. As they sprinted toward the light, the shadows clawed at their heels, the darkness trying to pull them back into the abyss. Each step felt like wading through molasses, but Sarah could see a flicker of hope growing brighter with every inch they covered. But just as they neared the light, an icy wind swept through the air, carrying with it memories of past fears, images of failures, shadows lurking in their home, and promises left unkept. You won't escape, the girl hissed, her voice now a desperate wail. You belong to me. As the darkness encroached once more, the shadows tangled around Sarah's legs, pulling her down, the weight of despair threatening to snuff out the flicker of hope they were chasing. Mommy! Ben cried, reaching out, his small hand grasping for hers as if that could pull them back from the edge. Could she break free? Was the light strong enough to save them, or was it just another trick of the darkness? And then the light pulsed again, brighter this time, illuminating the shadows, giving her hope. But what transformation lay ahead? Could light and dark coexist, or would one consume the other in the end? As the darkness closed in, the question hung thick in the air, a terrifying void waiting for an answer. The darkness roared, clawing at Sarah's ankles, tendrils of shadow threatening to drag her back into an abyss of despair. Choking on the fear, she fought against the tight grasp of the specters. She could feel them whispering, their voices curling into her mind like smoke, obscuring her purpose. "Mommy, please." Ben's small hand felt fragile in hers, his eyes wide with terror, reflecting the shimmering light that felt so close, yet so far. "Hold on tight," she shouted, gripping him with a desperation that was becoming sheer panic as the darkness slithered higher up her legs. The light pulsed again, stronger this time. Together, Sarah urged Lily and Ben, tightening her hold on them. They pressed forward, fueled by a shared promise of safety. The shadows hissed around them like venomous serpents, each slithering whisper delivering threats of oblivion. "Foolish mortals," the girl snarled, her voice sinking deeper, rich with ancient malice. "You think that you can outsmart the darkness? You thrive on hope, but hope is a fragile thing." The flickering light as they neared seemed to radiate warmth, and in that instant, Sarah felt something receive her fear, absorbing it. She focused on that feeling, drawing from it even as darkness crept closer. "Let go," she screamed, ripping free of the specter's grip, her will igniting into an inferno. With a final surge, they broke through the last veil of shadows, spilling into the light. It enveloped them, warm and vibrant, a stark contrast to the cold terror behind. But as Sarah gasped for breath, the bright light twisted, morphing into bodies. Familiar yet disfigured lost loved ones morphed by the darkness. Their faces were hollow, pleading, accusing. She staggered back, heart racing. "No, do you see them?" The girl giggled, her voice now surrounding Sarah like a wretched lullaby. "All that you've lost, and all that can never return." "Enough!" Sarah cried, her voice trembling. "You don't own us." She wrapped her arms protectively around her children, the light around them shimmering as if responding to her defiance. The shadows recoiled for a moment. Their hiss intensified, a shriek sounding above the cacophony. "You think you can resist? I'll take everything from you." The apparitions lengthened, twisting into horrific shapes, their mouths opening wide in unholy screams. The ground beneath Sarah's feet began to tremble, and she felt a fissure forming, a yawning chasm that promised nothing but oblivion. "Stay with me," Sarah commanded, determination flooding her as she steered the children away from the widening darkness. But out of the rift, something began to rise, a shadowy figure, larger and more fearsome, its silhouette a monstrous blend of the memories haunting her. It towered over them, an amalgamation of every loss, every fear, an entity born from despair itself. "Now you've truly lost," it boomed, an echoing voice laced with her past failures. "You will join the others in eternal night." Terror gripped Sarah's heart as she felt the familiar weight of despair pressing down. Every moment of doubt began to dance before her, each loss flashing like daggers through her mind. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her voice trembling. "No, we will not give in," Sarah shouted back, grounding herself in the moment. She faced the monstrous apparition glaring down at them. "You are not my fate." The darkness laughed, a sound that rattled through her bones. "Then face your truth." In a desperate act, Sarah reached deep within herself, focusing on the light, the hope she felt earlier. But what if it was just a flicker? Would it be enough to stand against the encroaching tide? As she summoned every ounce of strength, a blinding flash erupted from her core, illuminating the shadows. But in that brilliance, a deeper secret awaited, concealed within the void where her deepest fears lingered. What other truths lay hidden in the dark, waiting to be unearthed as they battled the impending dread? The monstrous shadow loomed larger, its presence suffocating. Yet something inside Sarah ignited a furious determination that eclipsed fear. As the darkness writhed around her like a living beast, she closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth of her children. Their laughter bubbling up from a place she thought long lost. Hope is not fragile. Can conquer, she shouted defiantly, lifting her hands toward the growing light within. And as if responding to her conviction, the light pulsed fiercely, dazzling against the encroaching shadows. The fiendish figure recoiled, appearing momentarily startled, but then it regained its ferocity, baring monstrous teeth in a twisted snarl. "Join me!" It bellowed, voices of anguish crammed within its confines, harmonizing and clashing in an orchestra of despair. "You cannot outshine the dark." "I will not," Sarah spat back, her voice cutting through the chaos as if wielding a sword. "I have faced darkness, and it will not claim my light." With her children's small hands clasped tightly around hers, Sarah stepped forward, rallying them with every ounce of love she could muster. Together, the light inside them surged, vibrant and warm, empowering them to move forward, seemingly defying gravity itself as they started to push against the dense shadows. Each step felt monumental. The darkness thrashed in desperation, claws reaching out as if to grasp them, but the light radiated fiercely, illuminating everything in its reach, creeping slowly into the shadow's domain, and suddenly it clicked. In that blinding intensity, Sarah understood. The light wasn't just a force. It was a connection, a web of love stretching beyond her own fear, woven with threads of every joyful moment they had ever shared. The shadow figure screamed in outrage, produced by all that it had devoured. Sarah could feel the energy bridge to those lost, each pulse igniting memories, the sound of her children's south laughter at the park, late-night cuddles on the couch, giggles over spilled juice. Each recollection intermingled with the light, turning it into an unstoppable force. "Mommy!" Ben shouted suddenly, his voice laced with newfound courage. "We can beat it." "Yes, let us show it." Lily chimed in, her small hand catching fire to the flickers of hope that danced around. With their voices uniting, they shouted together, "We are not afraid." The brilliance exploded around them. The monstrous shadow shifted, wavering as the echoes of their combined love overwhelmed its dark sustenance. The shadows curled back, each facet writhing, shrinking before the fire of their collective emotion until it flickered and faded like long-lost echoes. Then a fissure tore through the ground, a crack that felt both safe and terrifying, like an invitation. Together they soared, bursting forth into the crack on the ground, rocketing down into a vortex of bright light as they tumbled through. A stark silence enveloped them, the suffocating presence of despair left behind in the chaos. They landed softly in a meadow, the sun high in the sky, warmth engulfing them like an embrace. The air felt fresh, restoring. Sarah looked at her children, relief cascading through her as she noticed their radiant faces, their laughter liberating her from the trauma. "Lily, Ben," she called, pulling them close. "We made it. We did it." But then she turned, scanning her surroundings. "Where are we?" A quiet rustle in the distance caught her attention. Her breath caught as she saw figures approaching. Familiar faces lined up on the horizon, friends, family, lost loved ones she thought she'd never see again. There was Grandma, smiling brightly, and dear old Mr. Thompson from next door. "Mommy," Ben whispered in awe. "They're here." Sarah squeezed her children's hands tightly. A hollowness, once filled with dread, felt replaced by hope and love. The shadows of Maplewood had been vanquished, but their lessons remained. As she approached the welcoming faces, the weight of anxiety lifted embraces filled every inch of her soul, warmth settling like the last rays of sun dipping below the horizon. Together, they stepped into this new chapter, leaving behind the darkness that tried to consume them. "Goodbye, shadows of Maplewood," Sarah breathed, whispering a prayer of thanks. "Thank you for teaching me what it means to fight for love." The laughter of her family mingled with the gentle rustle of the wind, ushering them toward their hopeful future, a dawn bursting with infinite possibilities. And as they walked forward, side by side, the last glimmers of darkness faded into distant memories, uprooted and scattered like autumn leaves in a breeze, forever a part of her journey but never to hold dominion over her heart again. Now, dear friends, this is your moment to engage. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive stories that await you. Smash that like button now if you enjoyed this finale. It truly makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this triumphant end. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions.